welcome to Alan's Italy. This is show number 117, and we're going to be talking about Tuscany again, this time the town of Badia a Pasignano. Those of you who watch the show on a regular basis might be saying, gee, show number 17, what happened to 15, 115, and 116? This is 117. So I thought I would talk a little bit about what's been going on. The last show that I uploaded to YouTube was show number 114, which was on the Hotel San Antonine in Venice. And a lot of people have gone to it, well over 100. But, you know, then there's a break in the action. Show number 115 was the show I did that a restaurateur on Lake Como, I will not mention names, asked me to do for him, even though I told him that I'm not a professional videographer, and therefore, if he's expecting to use the show for marketing purposes, which he was, I was not the right person to choose for the job. And he insisted that I do it. I did it, and he didn't like it. So that show, which was on YouTube for a very brief time, was taken off YouTube, and it will never, of course, be on there again. Then we went on to show number 116, which was the show I did about the bead store in Venice, Muranero, and in that show were 3 really amazing videos, and we had some difficulty, and some editing had to be done. So that's been accomplished, and I hope to be uploading that show to YouTube very, very soon. And now we're on show number 117. So that's what's been going on with the various things that have been taking place. Tonight, my challenge is going to be that I downloaded a different operating system to my computer, which really threw iPhoto completely off. iPhoto is the app that I use to do the show, and a lot of things are different, but I'm going to attempt to do it anyway. But it will require me doing a few more modifications on the computer. So bear with me as I get this accomplished. And there we are, actually. And what you should be looking at now is a slide showing what the town looks like. And that's Alan's Italy show number 117, Badia a Pasignano. And this show is really based on a tour that the 2 people you see in that image helped to organize for me. This photo was taken in the year 2002, during either July or August. I forgot when I went. You could see, if you look closely, you'll see that I'm wearing shorts, and everybody is kind of dressed for the warm weather. The lady on the left is Sabrina, who was and still is a very close friend of my really good friend Lydia, who's pictured there on the right. And they decided in 2002 to take me all around Tuscany. Actually, not everywhere in Tuscany, but we focused on the area around Arezzo. And there is a very famous painting by Piero della Francesca. It's really a cycle, a fresco cycle in the cathedral. I'm not sure if it's the cathedral, but it's definitely a church in the town of Arezzo, and they wanted me to see it, so they took me to Arezzo, and then we decided to have lunch in the town of Anghiari. So what you're looking at now is a cafe in Anghiari, which would be very prominent in my future trips, because Laura and I would wind up going to this town a couple of times, and indeed having pizza at this very restaurant that you see there. And it's also a pizzeria, so we had the best pizza in this particular place. So Lydia and Sabrina are very good at escorting people especially me, around Tuscany. So that was taken in 2002, and this is what happened in our most recent trip in in June. Well, actually, I think it was the end of May of 2015, and this is Lydia on the right with me in the middle, and Sabrina and Sabrina's husband Giulio. And they decided that they were going to take us on an amazing tour of a region of Tuscany. I'll show you that right now. So here's Italy, and there you could see right in the middle is Florence. And the area that we're going to be focusing on is the area just south of Florence. And this is a more specific map of Tuscany. And there's Florence right in the middle. And this map is the one that really gives you an idea as to where we're going to be, where I'm going to be taking you today. And that is the town of Badia a Pasignano, which is basically a town whose center of town is an abbey that we're going to be focusing on mostly. And there's Florence, you could see, I would say about slightly over an inch above that red dot that indicates the town, and that's where Florence is located. And this is a really good map. This shows you what Lydia and Sabrina's plan was. So we started out in Florence and we headed south, and you could see that we skirt a town, the town of San Casciano, and we stopped there to pick up Sabrina and Giulio, who drove in a separate car. We continued going south to what turned out to be a place I'd never been before. And it was the town of Badia a Pasignano. And Badia a Pasignano is located, I would say, on the very western fringes of Chianti. This is the region known as Chianti right in here. And the town of Greve in Chianti is very, very close. Right off here in the corner, which you can't see very well, is the town of Foligno Valdarno, which is where Luca lives. And Luca's, that town is right on the eastern fringes of this area known as Chianti, known for its wine and beautiful, beautiful views. But we were on the western fringes at the town of Badia a Pasignano. And as you could see, it's about 52 minutes by car going from Florence to San Casciano and then coming around like this to the town. So that's exactly where it's located. We then spent most of the afternoon, most of the morning and the afternoon in this region. And part of that tour that Lydia and Sabrina gave to Laura and me will be at Badia a Pasignano, and the rest of it will be an amazing lunch that we had at the town of Renana, and then we went to another town by the name of Fiorale. So we've divided that up into two shows, and the first show will be just the Badia a Pasignano, and the second show will be lunch followed by a tour of the hill town of Fiorale. And this is what the countryside looks like as we head south from Florence into the region known as Chianti. And you could see it's, really quite beautiful with the beautiful stone house. Actually, it looks like a farm with the silo over there on the left. And, this area of Tuscany is known for its rolling hills. Not, very large mountains, as I've pointed out many times, as you would get, let's say, in eastern Tuscany or in northern Tuscany with the Alpi Appuane. But, very, very pretty landscape, as you could see, with little houses occasionally dotting the landscape. And in the distance right there, you could see the towers of the town of Badia a Pasignano with the very evocative trees surrounding it. And this is the entrance. This is the road that you take to get to the town. And there's the sign welcoming you. And that signpost of 50 does not mean 50 miles per hour, of course. That means 50 kilometers per hour, which is basically around 30 miles per hour. And there's a sign over to the right of that indicating you're not allowed to honk your horn. They do not want you to, destroy the tranquility of a really beautiful, quiet, peaceful area by doing that. And this is really where we're going to be going, to the Abbey of San Michele Arcangela in the town, and that's what it looks like from a distance. We did not take this picture. This picture was taken by me from the internet, but you could see just how magnificent the town is. And, it's basically the Abbey. It's not really a town. It's really mostly the Abbey. And this is the road that we took driving into town. And these are some of the scenes from the town itself. There's the tower that you saw from a distance. And, all stone houses. And the town actually goes back to the 11th century. We'll talk more about the history of the town in just a moment, but you could see that these are, very, very old, beautiful houses with the no parking sign over there on the right, just to the right of center. Another view of that stone house with the road going up to the left. The church, which will be more prominent in a few minutes. And this is our first video. This is a videotaped interview with me talking to Sabrina and Giulio, who are married, of course. And Ellen, when you're ready.
When?
Okay, so we're in Tuscany, near San Casciano.
San Casciano.
San Casciano. We're in Badia, Pasignano.
Badia, Pasignano.
And you just indicated to this is Sabrina and this is Giulio, who are friends of Lydia. And you say that you lived here at one time, or you vacationed
When
here?
I was a child, on holiday. On holiday, and when the school was finished, and we went here. I went here with my family because we had a country house. Okay, we lived in Florence, and we went here on holiday or just for a weekend. And Rignana is a place 3 kilometers from here, and we went here walking. We were a child. We walked for 3-4 kilometers for the mass.
Yes.
Here inside, in this church.
Wow. Okay. Very, very nice. So I should mention that Giulio and Sabrina are married. Have you been married now for
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
3 years ago?
We knew us 35 years ago. She was very young. I was.
You knew her 35 years
Yeah.
ago?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
went to the hotel to make a stage. I was cook there in the restaurant where we work now,
Right.
and so she was very young, but nothing happened. I was fiancé. She was very young.
Well,
Then
35 years ago, you were
was
like
in the 80s.
1 year old, right?
No.
My
And
God.
then
You
she,
certainly can't go out with her one.
then she came after 5 years. That started the friendship.
Yes.
Then I went to Germany. I stayed there for 10 years. I came back and I went again to work in this hotel. And so we started.
You work in the Westin Hotel now,
Yeah.
and you work at the Grand Hotel.
San
The
Regis
Saint
now.
Regis, but
Oh, it's the San Regis.
It's the same.
Now it's San Regis.
And so it was destiny that we should meet again. And then,
It was absolutely
yeah,
destiny.
it-
Laura and I have our paths kept crossing for many, many years, and we finally, connected. I think that's the way it was supposed to be. So, you live now. So how did you choose San Casciano as a place to
She
live?
chose San Casciano,
Yes, I chose it because my
brother.
my brother live in San Casciano from
15 years.
20 years.
Is that
Because her wife is
He's married in San Casciano with a
yeah,
wife.
yeah,
right?
yeah. I love
And she
this
found the
place.
place very nice.
And you have a 9-year-old child.
Yes.
Simone.
Simone.
His name
Simone.
is Simone. Yeah.
Okay.
And we work in Florence, but San Casciano is
20 minutes.
20 minutes
Yes.
drive.
Yes. And and you used to come to this church.
Come? Allora,
You used to.
to come in this for the mass, yes, every Sunday.
How old is this church? Do
I
you know?
don't know. I don't remember.
It looks pretty old.
I think
14th century.
Really?
14.
14th century.
13. Okay. You can ask the frate come si
Any
dice.
famous paintings in there? Like, is there a Michelangelo or a?
Ghirlandaio.
Ghirlandaio.
Worked here.
Okay.
Come si Lidia?
Non si può vedere
Cosa?
il ghirlandaio, è sotto restauro.
Ah,
There's a Ghirlandaio in there?
It's a ghirlandaio, but it's on the
The
restaurant.
ghirlandaio inside, but it's
Ghirlandaio
the
is my favorite artist.
okay.
Really? Ghirlandaio, but it's under
Ma te la
restoration.
decora? Ah, ok, we can...
We could try to corrupt the friar.
Do you think you'll come across? Okay, so we're going to go in now and take a look.
Ok, ma hai detto che siamo qui...
Am I on now? I'm on now? Okay, so there's a couple of things about that video which I found very interesting. First of all, I kept mispronouncing things. So, for example, Sabrina and Giulio, I kept saying San Casciano, basically pronouncing every single syllable. And it's, San Casciano is Casciano, but it's really pronounced San Casciano. So you don't go Casciano in Italian. If you get an IA, diphthong, it's just kind of it's pronounced Casciano. So that's what she kept correcting me on that. She also corrected me on the place where she works. It used to be called the Grand Hotel. It's now called the St. Regis. There used to be on the square of Onisante, Piazza Onisante, on one side was the Westin Hotel, Westin Excelsior. On the other side was the Westin Grand Hotel. But it's changed names, and I always get that mixed up. She referred to the town where her family lived in Florence, as you could hear from the interview, but they vacationed in the town of Rignana. And they used to then walk the 3 or 4 kilometers, which is, that's a pretty long walk. It's probably over a mile to the church in Badia, Pasignano, for their mass on Sunday morning. So they used to go there. We will actually take a closer look at Rignana next time, the next show, because we actually went back to that town where we had an amazing lunch overlooking the hills of Tuscany, and then we went to the next town, which was Fiorale. Okay, so back to the screen, Ellen, to this painting that you see right there. This was the painting by Ghirlandaio. It didn't hit me right away that there was a Ghirlandaio in there, but eventually, I realized, wow, it'd be nice if we can get to see this. And that's the painting by Ghirlandaio, and it's, we never did get to see it. But it's a beautiful painting. It doesn't have the evocative cat, the ubiquitous cat, I should say, that a lot of Ghirlandaio paintings have, right in front. But it does have beautiful decorations. If you look at this, the ceiling is beautiful, and there's kind of like a chandelier there in the middle, with beautiful decorations along the top. But we didn't get to see it, but maybe someday we will. And this is actually the place, this is a scene from the town of Rignana where they had where they used to stay for the summer. After she indicated that after school ended, like we have the same thing, and school ends at the end of June, and then people go away, and they did the same thing here, and they stayed here for the summer. We'll come back to this for the next show, but this is the church that was that we were referring to, where her family came on Sunday mornings, and it's a beautiful church, as you could see. With some really beautiful frescoes over there on the side, none of which is Ghirlandaio, though that was the one that was taken down for restoration. So maybe the next time we go back here, you could see that the frescoes are not really sharp images. That usually means that they have not been restored, so you don't get that vivid color that they probably had originally when they were painted, probably in the 15th century. And these are pictures from the Abbey. So the Abbey is the Abbey, and in Italian, it's Abbazia di San Michele Arcangela. An abbey is a series of buildings where the monks and the nuns live. And the foundations of this particular abbey come from the 10th century. But the town itself and the abbey that we're now looking at was created in the late 11th century. You'll hear more about that because we actually get a chance to interview one of the monks whose knowledge of the history of the abbey is astounding. It'll be really something to listen to. But this was very beautiful to walk around, as you could see. It was beautifully sculpted shrubbery. And you could see the old stone foundations and original walls on the left, with the newer area on the right. There's the tower with beautiful scenery all around it. And we saw all this from a distance. That picture I showed you earlier of what the town looked like from a distance, you could see the trees surrounding the buildings, and you could see it's kept beautifully. In the crenellations of the wall on the top are beautifully planted flowers. Again, very hard to take out photos. I try to, remove some photos to bring it down to a nice edited version, and it's very difficult because everything was just so stunning. And here's the interview. And now what's happening is I'm on the left, Giulio is on the right. He's going to be doing the translating for us, the translation for us. And the fellow in the middle is one of the 4 monks who was stationed at this abbey, and his name is Andrea. And you have to listen carefully because he's going to give you in the next 5 to 7 minutes an actual history of this abbey, really, really vivid history. So Ellen, when you're ready.
Andrea.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
I'm ready. So on.
Okay, so we are with Andrea at the Badia.
Monaco Benedettino.
Monaco is in, you say in English Monaco?
Monk.
Benedict monk.
Benedictine monk.
From Vallombrosa. So
Casa madre nostra.
Yeah,
From Vallombrosa. What does it mean from Vallombrosa?
Da Vallombrosa.
Vallombrosa, casa madre.
The mother, the principal abbey of Vallombrosa. This is this is where all started, and this happens after. They build this after Vallombrosa, so they depend from Vallombrosa.
I see.
So they are
Solo
like
che
a
Vallombrosa è dello Stato.
Yes, I explained. Gliel'ho
Pasignano,
spiegato, sì.
no.
Vallombrosa is owned by the state, Italian state. Pasignano is owned by them.
Right.
Perché San Giovanni Gualberto,
Because San Giovanni Gualberto
che era nato qua vicino,
was born here,
fondò Vallombrosa.
founded Vallombrosa,
Poi è venuto a morire qui.
but he went to die here.
Le sue ossa sono nella cappella della chiesa
The
qui.
bones are in the cappella of the church. Of
È
the
morto il
founder.
12 luglio 1073.
He was died in July 1073. So
Ed è patrono dei forestali d'Italia.
he's the protector of the people who cares about the forests, the woods, the
Well,
protector.
I've been to Vallombrosa,
Il Signore è stato a Vallombrosa.
Ah, bene.
but to me this is more beautiful.
Però
Anche-
per lui di questi qui è
Just my
Anch'io sono
opinion.
stato a
più bello.
Vallombrosa 13 anni
He has been in Vallombrosa 13 years.
e facevo il liquore,
He was making the liquor. There is a liquor in
Oh, really?
Vallombrosa.
licoreria.
I wish you were there when I was there. I would
Dice,
have.
spera-
So you've been here now 6 months?
Qui no, qui non si
Qui
può
gli ho
fare.
detto, chiede se lei è da qui da 6 mesi, quanto mi ha detto?
Sì, 6-7 mesi.
6, 7 months, yes.
Do a lot of people come here? Is this, a big tourist
C'è
place?
molto turismo,
Tanto.
stanno a lot.
Well, it's very, very
E
beautiful.
molti italiani e toscani non la conoscono.
And many Italians and Tuscan people, they don't know.
Pure Vallombrosa, Pasignano è stata molto famosa nei secoli perché è nata nel 1000
Because Pasignano has been very famous during the
e è sempre stata in contrasto tra le diocesi di Firenze, Siena, Fiesole, Arezzo.
There was always, how do you say, contrasto Lidia, come si dice contrasto? Sì. With other diaconis.
Contrast.
They were not, so friendly each other with the other church here
Incendi,
around.
incendi, distruzioni, tutto.
Se li facevano fra sé. There was a challenge like a war, a battle, and many churches were burned
I
from other
monaci,
churches.
i monaci
So
avevano,
like a war.
avevano i loro soldati che li difendevano. E quando il padre abate usciva c'era la scorta.
The monks, they had
Sì, perché
soldiers, they protected them. And when the oldest abate were going on or to go to another town, there were soldiers to protect him. This sounds strange, because questo suona un po' strano perché dice gente di pace,
sì,
people that should
li
predict
metteva alla
peace
pelle.
and love, they were afraid to be killed.
Now,
Poi
it's very, very well preserved and very
questo
beautiful here.
sembra vecchio, ma non è. Questo è 1865-70, quando Firenze era capitale d'Italia.
So I told you, this site is relatively young because it was built 1876.
I see.
The Abbey is 1000 after Vallombrosa.
Allora,
But this site
1810, 1810 Napoleone mandò via i monaci e portò via le campane originarie.
80 century, in 1810, Napoleon was here. They pushed away the monks and stole the bells.
Poi 1866
Then 1866,
lo Stato italiano soppresse tutti gli ordini
the
religiosi.
Italian states stopped all the religious orders.
Finché i monaci
Said
non
no one
andavano via.
could make a religion, and the monks they should go away from here.
Poi tutto lo stabile, che non era così, era più diroccato, un po' più
And
dismesso,
the whole buildings that was not in this
passò
state,
allo Stato.
the state took it with the force. They said, okay, now
Lo Stato
the state owns
lo ha
everything.
rivenduto ai privati,
The state sold it back to private people.
conti, marchesi, tutte persone importanti. Tra queste il conte polacco conosco, ma Maurizio Seduceschi.
And Polish nobile people, conte, ha comprato lui.
Sì, sì, chiudete tutto voi, sempre. Tirate la porta. Venite oggi? Va bene, sì. Prego, ciao.
Comprò questo seducesco.
Questo così. E fece tutte queste mura merlate con queste torri.
And build this
Perciò
new
è
building.
recente, non è antico.
Very beautiful.
It's
Per
nice
dare importanza
to
al
give
posto.
importance to
perché
the place.
qui in mezzo a queste vigne c'è un panorama favoloso. Pasignano una volta aveva 60 case coloniche e 40 poderi.
Pasignano was owning 60 farms here around, so to say how big it was and very important it was.
E sotto qui, quanto è grande anche il chiostro qui, c'è la cantina,
And here under the building was the cellar,
perché ai monaci piace il vino.
because the monks likes to drink.
Signora mia,
Yeah.
vanno dette.
come stanno? E allora ora noi abbiamo venduto tutto al Marchese Antinori
So they sold everything now to the Marchese Antinori, which is a wine
e
producer.
qua giù ci tiene i baricchi di vino per l'invecchiamento.
And here has wine barricks for to make
Lui ci
the
dà
wine
un
oil.
tanto al mese e noi possiamo andare avanti e fare qualche lavoro di restauro perché c'è sempre bisogno.
And they
L'impianto
finance
elettrico, le pulizie, la casa è immensa, è 2 volte vallombrosa. 2 volte.
Grazie.
Prego,
Grazie.
viva l'America,
Grazie.
faccia un bel servizio, poi ce lo manda tu, magari si fa qualche cosa.
Bisogno di restauro.
Am I back on? Okay, so when we do these videos, there's no editing and there's no pre-planning. The video we did when I was interviewing Giulio and Sabrina was just something on the spur of the moment. So if you remember from that video, all of a sudden the bell tower, the bell started going off. And that's and I gave Laura a look like what are you going to do? But that's the way it is. In this particular one, Andrea, the monk, was giving us this extraordinary history, but it was going on a little too long, and I kept giving looks, and of course there was, if you notice, the angle of the video changed from because Laura was originally standing up and taking the video, and then you may have heard her ask for a chair, and Sabrina brought over a chair, so now the angle is slightly different because Laura's now sitting down. But Andrea, the monk, was giving us a history. Let me just summarize it very quickly in case there was a lot going on in that video and a lot of information being imparted. But this is what he was saying. He was saying that the original, that there was a fellow by the name of Giovanni Gualberto who founded the monastery at Vallombrosa in 1038. And he founded that became a Benedictine abbey and part of the Vallombrosan order. And then Giovanni came to found the abbey at Badia a Pasignano and then died there in the year 1073. So that's what he was referring to. I did a little research. There isn't much about this one. And he mentions that Italian tourists and, Tuscan tourists don't go here that often. Most of them go to the more famous abbey at Vallombrosa. But this particular abbey was constantly being destroyed and rebuilt. So part of it, the front, the part that Laura then, spanned to look at the church, is from the 18th century, while the original part of the abbey is from the 11th century. So that's what was going on in that. And this is what the abbey at Vallombrosa looks like. And you may remember this. You would have to be a very avid fan of Allen's Italy to remember this particular abbey, because we went to this abbey. We did a show about it we did a show about Eastern Tuscany, and you could see the route that we took at that time. We started out in Felligna Valdarno, which is where Luca lives, and we came up this route here to the sound of Saltino, and then right next to Saltino is Vallombrosa. So this is where Vallombrosa is located, and then we continued with Luca, leading the way to the Passa di Consuma, Castello Romana, and we wound up in Poppi, where we had lunch, and then we just kind of drove back again. But this was that trip we took to Vallombrosa, and we took that trip with, there's, from the right going to the left is our friend Randy. So this was the year 2010, and that's me, and then Luca, and then Randy's son David, and then Luca's partner Mary on the extreme left. So Luca and Mary were kind enough to show us all over Eastern Tuscany. And, it occurred, Luca was driving his car, I was driving, my car behind him, which is almost the best conditions for me for driving. As you know, I don't like driving in Italy, but driving behind Luca, kind of showing the way, is a nice compromise. And there's a really wonderful picture of Luca and me in the town of Felligna Valdarno. And this is what Eastern Tuscany looks like, where Vallombrosa is located. You can see it's different. The terrain is different from Eastern Tuscany and the area of central Tuscany, where Chianti is located. Here you actually have a mountain range. This is what the photo we took of Vallombrosa, and it was, pretty impressive also. And this is the region of Tuscany right around Eastern Tuscany. Slightly different terrain, as you could see. And now we're back to Badia Pasignano. There's Lydia and Sabrina, and off to the left is Giulio and me, and a few more photos taken from the walls looking out at the countryside, from those walls looking back, at that view. And again, this is the newer part of the Abbey from the 18th century, with beautiful stained glass doors. A loggia with some beautiful arches. That bar you see across there is what they used to use in the 15th century to hold up the walls before they became more expert at architecture. And these are some of the photos we took of some of the art within the church itself. And this goes back very, very far. I can't tell you the exact date, but probably, before the 16th century. And you can even see by the artwork that its iconography kind of goes back to the late Gothic period. A really beautiful shot of the clock tower taken from within the church itself. A well right in the middle of the courtyard. A beautiful building. There was the time. It was actually 11:30, so we were kind of getting ready for lunch at that point. And as you know, Laura likes to take very old doors. That's one of them. And this is the town of Riana that Sabrina refers to. And this is where we went for lunch. We went to the La Cantinetta di Riana, and that's where we had lunch. And we'll these are some photos of the restaurant, and we're going to focus on that a little more in the next show, because the view we had when we were dining, that's a very interesting spot over there. And as we enter the the end of the show, many thanks to Giulio for the translation at the Abbey with the monk Andrea, to Lydia, who once again took us on a really magnificent tour of Tuscany, and to Sabrina and Giulio for their company and the excellent interview they granted to us. We actually went back to San Casciano at the very end of the day, where we sat at Giulio and Sabrina's house for a couple of hours, and they served us a little snack. So I'll be talking about that as well. And then next on Alan's Italy is the second part of that day, where we had lunch, and then they all took us to the beautiful town of Montefiorale. So that brings us to the end, and now I have to try to get back to the original, the original screen. And it's a little this is a little challenging for me. I'm going to have to learn how to use this new operating system. So it's a little challenging. I have to hide this to get to this, and in fact, I need to get rid of that screen. Okay, so anyway, thank you for watching. Now, the next show we'll be doing is not going to be for a long time. We're in a makeshift studio in a trailer, and starting very, very soon, all the equipment in the entire studio is being moved back into its new facility, which is supposed to be beautiful. So there's not going to be a show for a while. I don't know how long it'll take. Last time, it took about 3 months before we went from the old studio to the makeshift studio, and I'm not sure how long this is going to take.
We expect to be done by December.
By December. So Ellen tells me that, it'll be starting around the very end of October, so we may be back in December. If so, I'll be ready with new shows. But for now, buonanotte e buona fortuna.